And welcome to the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Mililani Mauka Launani Valley Neighborhood Board 35. I'd like to call this meeting to order and wish everyone a happy new year. This is our first meeting of the new year. And at this time, ask Scout BSA Troop 664 to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, please rise for the presentation of the colors. Troop attention. Color guard attention. Color guard forward march. Mark time, march. Right wheel, march. Ready, halt. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, forward, march. Mark time, march. Ready, halt. Color guard dismissed. You may now be seated.
All right, thank you very much, Troop 664. At this time, I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Tamashiro for our meeting decorum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of Chair Hazama and your Mililani Mauka Launani Valley Neighborhood Board 35, again, welcome and Happy New Year, everyone. In terms of just meeting decorum, please, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand, be acknowledged by the chair or recognized by the chair. He'll then call you up to the microphone. Those that are joining us virtually, if we could ask that you, again, mute your speaker and again, use the hand signal if you want to be recognized by the chair in order to speak. And then finally, if you could keep your minutes or keep your talk to about 3 minutes or less if possible, so that we can hear feedback and concerns from everyone in the community. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on to our monthly reports from our first responders, Honolulu Fire Department.
Aloha, my name is firefighter recruit Ryan Council from Engine 41. Stats for December are 0 structure fires, 0 brush or wildland fires, 1 nuisance call, no cooking, and 2 activated alarms with no fire, 47 medicals, no motor vehicle collisions or with pedestrian, no motor vehicles crash or collision, 0 mountain rescues, 0 ocean rescues, and 0 hazmat incidents. Our fire safety tip of the month is electrical work should be done and performed by a qualified electrician. Check your electrical cords. If they're cracked or damaged, replace them. Do not overload your wall outlets or power strips, and use certified power strips that meet the safety standards. Extension cords should not be used for long term. They're designated for only short term use. And then follow manufacturer's instructions for all appliances. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the Honolulu Fire Department this evening? Anyone? Yeah, come on up, please, Marty.
Marty Odegiro, resident Mililani. You know the status of the Mililani brush fire investigation? Is it over? Are we going to get briefed on it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Captain Brian Calvin, Ninja 41 Third Watch. Just to clarify, you're talking about the brush fires that happened up above years ago. Okay. As far as we know, the investigation is still open. We haven't seen any reports. That is something that can be requested through our website.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone online? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Okay, next up, the Honolulu Police Department.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Scott Vieira with the Wahiawa Police Station. I'm the Night Watch Commander. Our hours are from 6 p.m. to 7:30 in the morning. I'll go ahead and read the stats for this past month. The Mauka area and Launani, there were 2 assaults. There were 0 robberies. There was 1 burglary and 2 UEMVs, or unlawful entry into motor vehicles, which is breaking into someone's car. The safety tip for the month, I've been seeing more people exercising, trying to fulfill their New Year's resolutions, more people on our bike paths and stuff. So these are just some reminders, but I think it's worth stating. If you're going to go out and walk, especially during the dark hours, make sure you either have a light or reflector or just bright clothing. I see a lot of people wearing dark clothing, their jackets, it's cold, so dangerous. Headphones and earbuds for some of the younger kids. It's good. It helps me get through some of my workouts. But when you wear those and you're on the streets, you're pretty much giving up your whole sense of hearing to your environment. You can't hear cars, other people on maybe bicycles approaching you, rubbish trucks that look like they're parked, but they're beeping and they're going to reverse. And those trucks are big. They can't see you. So just something to keep in mind. When you're crossing the street, a lot of times, at the corners, the car will stop. If you can, try to make eye contact. A lot of times they're stopping for the light. They don't see you. Make sure they see you. If they don't, maybe wait until they wave you, but make eye contact if possible. And the last thing is crosswalks. Crosswalks are wonderful. They serve protection, but they don't have a magic shield that's going to prevent you from getting hurt. So a lot of people think they're in the crosswalk, they got the hand, and they just go. You need to just make sure that it's safe. But you can be right, you're not in the wrong, but yet you're still injured, and that does you no good. So just a few pointers, but you guys are pedestrians or driving as well. Any questions?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any questions for Honolulu Police Department this evening? Anyone online? Okay, mahalo.
Thank you.
We have anybody from Board of Water Supply this evening?
Yes, I'm here. Hi,
Oh,
how
hi,
is
Kathleen.
everybody?
Go ahead.
Sorry to be online tonight, but I'm happy to report there were no main breaks in your community since we last met. And then one thing we wanted to let people know that we are offering home audits especially for Kapuna. This is to help you ensure that your water fixtures, your shower heads, your faucets are low flow and that you're conserving water. So if you are interested in a free audit, please give me a call at 808-292-4672. And that is all I have to report at this time. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Kathleen. Any questions for Board of Water Supply this evening? Anyone online? All right, thank you, Kathleen.
Aloha, have a nice
Aloha.
evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, our military representative report this evening, Colonel.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. So for the remainder of January for training, we still have training in East Range, Jungle Ranger training, 27th through the 31st. That'll be small arms, blank fire. Be aviation training going on the 21st, so today through the 23rd, and then 27th through the 30th. So there'll be helicopters flying around. It's supposed to be during the day, even though I just saw one flying after 6 p.m. So it's supposed to be 6 to 6, but schedules can run a little bit late, so have a little patience. Additionally, on Schofield Barracks, there'll be artillery and mortar training the 21st through the 31st, both day and night. So there'll be some loud booms going on here in the next couple weeks. Late evening hours and even early morning hours. There'll also be demolitions training 24th and 25th during day and evening. So next 2 weeks might be kind of loud over the period. There'll be a full-scale exercise through Coley Pass on it's the 5th of February. It's a ongoing effort to partner with the Hawaii State and County Emergency Management officials. Basically through the Lualule Naval Magazine. And it's to test out that route in case of a natural or man-made disaster. But it's with the Navy, Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, City and County of Honolulu Department of Emergency Management, Honolulu Police Department, Fire Department, and Hawaii Department of Transportation will all participate in this exercise. And then there's a job fair coming up on the 18th of February up at Heliomano from 8:30 to 2 p.m. Provisional hiring may occur on site. And if you're interested, go to www.himwr.com. There'll be a banner on there that says employment. So go ahead and click on that. And if you have any questions or want to be added to the distribution list, call the community concern line at 808-787-1528. That's 808-787-1528. Any questions?
Thank you, Colonel. Any questions for our military this evening? Go ahead.
Okay, Colonel, just you mentioned artillery and mortar training. Is that live fire or is it?
That will most likely be live fire.
Okay, so if it is live fire, then it's going to be at Schofield,
Yes.
not at East Range. So we're not going to hear anything from
Correct.
East Range then. Okay,
Schofield.
all right, thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other questions? Anyone online? All right, thank you, Colonel. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to board business this evening, we have an update on the affordable housing project at Mililani High School. Sherry Nakamura is here from ISFA.
Aloha and Happy New Year. My name is Sherry Nakamura and I'm the Community Liaison for the Hawaii School Facilities Authority. Thank you for allowing me to come back with additional updates on the Mililani High School Workforce Housing Project. So I assume that most people know about this project, but if you don't, I'm happy to give a background on it. Is everybody familiar with this project? Okay, so I'm going to start with, in August of 2024, the project was awarded to Pacific Housing Assistance Corporation. And in their preliminary proposal, Pacific Housing identified a potential site for the teacher workforce housing. This was located on the upper campus of Mililani High School on the corner of Ho'okelewa'a Street and Mehe'ula Parkway. In October and November of last year, we attended neighborhood board meetings, conducted several community meetings where the community shared valuable feedback regarding their many concerns about Site A. And board members, you do have a picture of Site A. At the community meetings in December, we floated the idea of moving the project to an alternative site, Site B, to a location on the lower campus. This generally received positive responses. We still want to give the community opportunity to respond to this alternative location. So we invite you to share your thoughts through our website. And I do have a QR code here that you can get your phone and take a picture. We have a section for community feedback, and we will keep this open until February 7th. After February 7th, we will review and evaluate all feedback and make a decision in late February to enable us to move forward with additional due diligence and to move on to the design phase. There are many more steps before we actually start construction, including environmental assessments and development agreements. To give you a sense of timing, we estimate, if everything goes smoothly, the start of construction to be in 2027. Our plan is to continue to update the community periodically here at the neighborhood board meetings, the Mililani High School Community Council, and on our website. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for SFA this evening? Anyone online? Okay, so I know I was able to attend a few of them. I know some of the board members were as well. So we thank you for having so many of them out here. I think SFA has heard the feedback, I think, of the community and is trying to work with us to, and the developer to come up with a plan that'll work. May require additional money from the state be kicked in, but I think everybody can agree that I think everybody wants, or most everybody wants that site be alternative. So, but again, thank you for coming. And if there's any other further updates or you want to come before the board again, let me know. I guess Alice, you have a question.
When was the next meeting going to be held at Mililani High School? Is it in February?
So we're a standing agenda item at the Mililani High School Community Council, the School Community Council meeting, which I believe is the second, sometimes it's the third Tuesday of the month. It's either the second or the third Tuesday of the month. It's a public meeting and it's held in the H building of Mililani High School.
Is that the cafeteria or the library?
It's neither. It's actually by Site A. It's on the upper campus and it's a multi-purpose room. They have the Mililani YPO neighborhood board meetings in that room.
And the other thing is, are you factoring in, since you have taken all of our community concerns to heart, having attended the meetings? Site B, are you starting to factor in the cost of electricity and sewer and whatever else?
Yes, of course. We do want to allow the community, though, to send their comments in. We did have those meetings, and thank you so much for joining us in December. But we wanted to give some more time for people to be able to respond and give input. And we will review all of that and provide updates in February and ongoing.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I just want to point out one thing that I can appreciate, that you guys came to the table, you listened, you took information back, and you guys really have been trying to work through all of the issues that have come up. It's no one's fault, it happens. But I want to just say that you folks truly come out to listen, and it's not just a box you check off. And with that being said, my other concerns, of course, are the other sites. And going around, there's at least 121 schools, I believe the last count, that sit on what's called ceded lands. I call them seized asset lands that are within OHA's purview. And so I hope that the department that is overseeing and looking at other places such as Nanakuli High and Intermediate, whether that is even usable facilities, depending on how the land ownership is, whether the state actually holds title to some of these locations. So going forward, regardless of this project here, it's a learning curve. Going forward, looking at the next targeted 3 or 4 schools, that you folks keep that in mind, that is an important thing to make sure is looked at thoroughly. University of Hawaii has several, 50 plus acres, I think, of royal lands. Yeah, so it's really weird because some crisscross. So I just want to make sure that that is kept at the forefront when choosing the next sites going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We will definitely keep that in our minds, and we will do our due diligence with the next sites going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, that's it.
Just to reiterate, you have chosen a company, correct? A construction vendor?
The award was made to Pacific Housing Assistance Corporation. Yes.
So from the previous presentation we had, we understand they're going to build, own, and run. Is that correct?
It's called Design Build, DBFOM, Design Build Finance Operate and Maintain. Yes.
So it's one company's going to do that.
Yes,
The DOE is going to manage that.
it's not the DOE. We are the School Facilities Authority, which is separate from the DOE, but we have been authorized to manage this project of building teacher housing. So we actually partner with the developer because it's a public-private partnership. And they will be the entity that design, builds, operates, finances, and maintains.
Great. Do they happen to provide you a concept on the drawing of the building?
They have, they're in their proposal. So we did issue an RFP and developers came back with different proposals. And in their proposals, they had renderings, but because we're in the middle of considering moving or choosing another site, an alternative site, things may change.
Great. Is that proposal available for public viewing?
If you go to the Mililani YPO Neighborhood Board site, I believe they have materials posted.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, next up, issue on proposed sewer rate increases for the Honolulu City and County. Director Roger Babcock from the Environmental Division, Department.
Good evening, Chair Hazama and board members. Roger Babcock, Department of Environmental Services for the city. Environmental Service, there's two handouts coming around. One is a flyer, shows our proposed, some background information on our proposed rates. And then there's a second handout, which shows what some residential bills will look like over the next 10 years, assuming that this rate package is adopted as we've proposed. So environmental services, we take care of all the wastes for the city, wastewater and solid waste. So wastewater is a bigger operation. It's the bigger of the two operations, which I'll talk about more. Refuse is, there's about 400 people it takes to take care of refuse. And as you may have heard, we're looking for a new landfill. But that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. On the sewer services, that takes about 800 people to do that work. We have 2,100 miles of sewer pipes. We have 71 wastewater pump stations. We have 9 wastewater treatment plants, and that sort of comprises that operation. Now, the sewer service is an enterprise fund, so it's separated from the general fund of the city. So it's funded by sewer fees alone. Kind of like the Board of Water Supply, it's a separate operation. It's funded by fees, a fee-based service, whereas refuse, solid waste, is part of the general fund. That means it's paid for out of your property taxes, along with all the other city services. Okay, so sewer is an enterprise fund, which means that the fees need to be set so that they match revenue requirements. And revenue requirements are based on costs of operation and costs of construction projects. So that's how the operation works. So I'll explain a little bit about why our sewer fees are going up, what it's needed for, what the rate increases that we have requested that we need, and then some new things that we're doing with respect to the fees. And if I'm going too long, feel free to stop me and just start asking questions whenever you want. But basically, sewer fees have not gone up since July 1st of 2016. So 8.5 years ago was the last sewer fee increase. Costs have increased during that time for operations, and we've done a lot of construction. However, there had been quite a few sewer fee increases prior to that, and those prior sewer fees increases have been enough to get us up to where we are today and be able to continue our operations effectively and efficiently. However, we're at a point now where we need to raise the rates again. And that's partly because of increased costs of operation, but also because we have some large a very large construction program underway. So on the back side, let's see, no, sorry, on the front side of the flyer at the bottom, it shows our capital improvement appropriations by project type from 2025 through 2040. So in the sewer function, we have to do a lot of long-range planning. So we have our projects planned out for a long period of time, more than 20 years. And this is showing a snapshot of 15 years. And you'll notice that the total, these are construction costs, is 10.1 billion. So that's a pretty big number. That's the same kind of number as the rail project. The difference is that our projects are funded with debt. So we issue bonds, tax-free municipal sewer bonds, just like the city issues tax-free general obligation bonds. We issue separate bonds that are for sewer funds. So these projects are largely constructed with borrowed money. Okay, a little bit is with cash, which is directly from sewer fees, but most of it is bond funded. So bond funding is like taking out a mortgage. They're 30-year bonds. We pay principal and interest over 30 years instead of having to all the cash up front and paying for it. So what's shown down there is several different types of projects that we do. We have to do trunk sewers and pump stations, treatment plants, pump stations and force mains, gravity sewer rehabilitation, and then the big orange one there says consent decree. So in 2010, the city signed on to a federal settlement in federal court with the Department of Justice, the US EPA, the Department of Health, and several other litigants, private nonprofits, and agreed to do a series of projects between 2010 and 2035. So we're a little bit more than halfway through the consent decree work. There's 11 years remaining, or 10 and a little bit more, almost 11, in order to finish up the work in that consent decree. And there's one big project that still needs to be done, and that's that orange one there, and it shows it's $1.8 billion. And that's to upgrade the Sand Island wastewater treatment plant. The first two phases was the collection system and pump stations. That was required to be done in the first 10 years. By 2020, we finished all those projects. There was 145 projects associated with that. And then the second part was to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant that all of us who live in Mililani contribute to, which is the one in Eva Beach called Honouliuli. So that project was required to be finished by June of last year, June of 2024, and it was completed on time, and it's running now, and we've met all the requirements. So we've met all the requirements of the consent decree, and the only one that remains is completing the Sand Island upgrade by December 31st of 2035. So there's about 10 years left to do that, and so we have proposed a 10-year rate package. This is based again on all our projections, our projects that we have to do, how much they'll cost, et cetera. And it's not a coincidence that the 10 years corresponds to finishing up this consent decree work. After that, there's no more consent decree, and we kind of can continue on kind of back to the way things normally used to be. So the rate increases that are needed are shown in the, well, they're kind of listed on the back side of the flyer. But basically, we need 9% increase per year for 6 years, beginning this July 1st. And then 5 more times after that, and then 8, 7, 6, and 5% in the years 7 through 10. So this adds up to 115%, so a little more than doubling. And it does depend on how much water you use, because your sewer bill is based on your water use, exactly how much your percent increase will be. And that's what the other flyer shows you. But I want to just say a little bit more about that. What it shows, there's a table, there's one table on the back here, and it does show for a water user, somebody uses 9,000 gallons of water per month. So that's your drinking water use. We take off 20% credit for, we reduce the amount by 20%, which is assumed your outdoor water use that's not becoming sewage. And 80% of the 9,000 gallons, which is 7,200 gallons, is the amount used to calculate part of your sewer bill. So your sewer bill consists of two parts, a base charge and a volumetric charge. A base charge is a fixed amount every month that everybody pays irregardless of how much water you use. Even if you don't use any water, your bill would be $77.55 per month right now. And then you pay a volumetric charge of $4.63 for every 1,000 gallons of water that you use. Board of Water Supply water. So that's the meter. We get the meter data from them, and then it's calculated. So minus 20%, get the number of thousands, and you multiply by $4.63. So overall, those are going to go up by 9% each year in the beginning, and then a little bit less. And just so you know, 3% per year of that is for inflation, just increasing costs due to inflation. Before I talk about the changing fee structure and our, well, let's do that first. So we are changing the fee structure. Currently, as I mentioned, $77.55, and then a typical bill is around $100 to $110. So you'd see that about 75% or a little more of your bill is the base charge, the fixed charge. And a much smaller amount, 30% or so, is the volumetric charge. And so what that means is that it's tilted towards fixed charges, and you have very little control over how much your bill is. If you're to save water, use less water, it shows a very, very small amount on your bill. To switch that to more 50-50. So only about half the bill will be base charge and half would be volumetric. So what that means is that there's a greater incentive to save water, or you can have more control over your bill. So that's why we did that. That's what we've proposed and what we intend to do. We also realize that for some folks, this will be a hardship. And so we have started a program, an assistance program that we're called Customer Assistance to Residential Environmental Services, or CARES. And so we fashioned this after the rental and utility relief program that came out of COVID, where homeowners who were at 80% AMI, area median income, or lower were eligible for rental and utility relief. In this case, we're going to use that same criteria. Folks that meet the criteria and apply would be eligible for a $20 to $25 reduction in their base charge, per month. And as you'll see, that would wipe out several years of sewer fee increases for people who are eligible. In other words, their bill wouldn't go up at all from what it is today. So that's two things that we've done that are different. We've never had a program like that in the past. And we are excited to do that to help folks who need it. The second handout that I have is just a one-page thing, and it shows some single-family residential sewer bills and what they will look like over the next 10 years. So the number for 2024 at the top is what it is today until it gets changed. $77.55 is the fixed rate. $4.63 is the volumetric rate. And then depending on how much water you use, you can calculate across the top your bill. So some folks might use 2,000 gallons for a month, or 4,000, or 6,000, or 8,000, or 9, or any number. You can calculate the numbers then in the table. The column that's highlighted is 9,000 gallons. And that is a number at which 70% of all residential users use that amount or less. There's another number on there, 6,000, and 6,000 is the median use. So half of all people use that amount or less, and half use more than that. So that's just to give you some, sort of some perspective. And so you can see by looking at, as we move down through the years of July 1st of 25, this year, then 26, 27, and all the way out, 10 years, you can kind of see what your bill is going to, how your bill is going to increase. So the numbers in the highlighted column are the same as what's in the flyer. So I'm going to go through the ones under 6,000. So currently, because that happens, I have my water bill here, and that happens to be how much water I use. And so recent bill for me was $49.41 for drinking water and $100.70 for wastewater. So if you look at 6,000, you see it's about $100 today, $99.77. In 2025, my bill is going to go up a little less than $8, $7.80. And then the next year, it's going to go up another $8 and another $8 or $9 each year. And these are per month. These are the monthly charges. And at the end of the 10 years, starting July 1st of 2034, the bill would be $203. Okay, so for that median water user, it goes up 104%. And that's because of this thing we did with the 50/50, changing to 50/50. So if you look at the really low water users, the 2,000 gallons per month, that's a couple, doesn't use very much water at all. Their bill is currently $84, and most of that is the base charge, 90% of that. But as you go through the years, what we see is that they're really overall they're only paying a 70% total increase, over the 10 years, and that's because of that change in the shift, which rewards you using less water. Also, just one more quick thing. If you look at the column that says fixed rate, that's the second column from the left, you can see the 77.55. And what you see is we're doing that shift to 50/50 over the first 4 years. And so the fixed rate doesn't change. It actually goes down a little bit over the first 4 years. So in year 2028, the fixed rate is 74.74 instead of 77.55 it is today. So the fixed rate goes down a little bit. So again, if you're watching your dollars and you really want to save money, then the saving increases in value. So currently, if you use 1,000 less gallons per month, let's say you went from 6,000 to 5,000, you'd save $4.63 on your bill. But in we can go all the way out to 2034. If you save 1,000 gallons, it's worth $18.66. So it's much more incentivized to save water because of that shift. So I know that's a lot of numbers and perhaps confusing things, but if you have any questions, I'll just mention that, again, the Department of Environmental Services, we do a rate study. We had a stakeholder advisory group with about 35 members, including several from different neighborhood boards and all kinds of different industry and stuff. And we met over 6 or 8 months to come up with this package. And that's our job, is to come up with a rate package. And this is what we need. And then we have to take it to council, and council does have to approve this for us. But council doesn't want this rate increase. We want this rate increase. This is our rate increase. And but they do have to take action. So that's where it's at now. It's been presented to council. It's been read once. It went to a committee. And then it's gone back to another committee, but it has to go through two more council readings to be finally approved because it's in ordinance. So these sewer rates are in an ordinance, and it gives the exact numbers per year. And so, that's kind of where we're at now. Be at council, it'll be at committee next month and council next month, and then council again in March. So that's kind of the time frame we're looking at. And so there'll be hearings about that. And we've been to, this is our 20th neighborhood board meeting with this flyer. We have 2 more this week and a bunch, the rest in the next couple of months. We've also had 6 public meetings. There was one in Mililani. We've been on Nakuli, Ainahaina, Kailua, all over the island. And we have one more, we have 3 more actually already in the works. One scheduled, 2 more being scheduled. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Any questions for environmental?
Yeah, I have a curious question. I remember a couple of years ago about EPA and something, I don't know, I think that had to do with the sewers, and it was because we weren't doing something or other. I don't remember all the details. Is that factored into any of this, or is that it is?
Yes. So I can't remember which thing you're talking about. I wish I could say there was only one time we ever got in trouble with EPA and Department of Health, but that's not the case. That's wastewater is very challenging, but the consent decree was a really big one, which was settled in 2010, had settled a bunch of lawsuits and violations and stuff at that time. Any other things that we need to do to upgrade based on certain deficiencies that we have are all factored in here. In the last few years, we've had some trouble out at Kailua with the treatment plant with some exceedances, and that's due to bacteria counts coming out the outfall, leaving the treatment plant. And so we have 2 big construction projects going on there right now to address those, and they were required by by an enforcement action. And so one of them is about 10% complete. That's a disinfection system. It'll be done by the end of the year. And another one is a kind of a bigger project, and it's in design right now. And we'll award the construction contract for that, and get started as soon as we can.
I'm a single person, and so my water bill per month is about $30. So I guess I'm about a 2,000 gallon, I don't know for sure. But I can tell you that my sewer bill is way over $100 every month. And if I turn the sprinklers on, I'm in a deep bandini. Because the water use definitely goes up. How are you going to, I mean, I'm not in any trouble, but how will you address? I noticed that you had what assistance is there if you needed help. I think there's, based on the insurance problems that a lot of us are having and many other factors, what kind of assistance will you be able to help an old person or a person that doesn't have much money?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So the program that we've proposed to start with, we call it our CARES program, would address household incomes less than 88% of the area median income. And the area median income is like $104,000 or something like that. So 80% of that and lower would be eligible for this program. So you just have to apply. If you qualify, then you'd be eligible for that reduction of, it's going to be $20 to $25 per month off your bill. And so that is the program that we have initially, planned to do. The thing that's nice about customer assistance programs is that you can try and assess the population that you're targeting, and then how to get to that population, to get them qualified, get the application, get them in the program. And then if the program doesn't achieve the goals that you have, you can change it. So the CARES program is not in ordinance. So we can do, at least according to our lawyers, we can do this program without having it in ordinance, which means that we could change it if it is not doing what we want to do. So we've learned this from a bunch of utilities on the mainland, and they continue to sort of change their programs and then make adjustments in order to make sure, to the best that they can, that the folks that need it are able to get it. So all I can say is that is our goal. Our goal is to try and help folks that are going to be,
How will you know where they are?
Well, so I guess we will do surveys. So what the rental and utility relief program did is they did kind of a lot of outreach. They did it with two organizations, Catholic Charities and Council on Native Hawaiian Advancement, CNHA. And so they went out to their, sort of their contacts, as well as doing various kinds of outreach and publicity to try and get people to know about it. Go out to places in the community and actually fill out forms with people and help people get in the program. So I think basically the answer is there will be, I think there'll be information coming out to, try and get the word out about this program. So we're on, what's that?
Could it be in their bills?
Yes, so we can do mailers with the bills. Yeah,
That would be a good way to get a hold of people.
it is. Yeah.
The last question I really have, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman. The water department has talked about, and this is something I saw in the newspaper a while ago, that the water department has at least 3 pipes of some sort, some capacity, breaking every day. Now, we have an old sewer system, particularly down in Waikiki, Kaimaki, where I'm from and stuff. So there's a lot of old sewer pipes. How is that being handled? Because this is a sewer rate for construction, basically, and to upgrade the system. But what are you doing about all the broken pipes?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So repairing, upgrading, and maintaining the sewer system is a big part of our, of our operation. On this flyer, there are several different categories of types of projects. And one of them, which is the green color, the dark green color, is called gravity sewer rehabilitation, reconstruction, and replacement. So that's a big part of our program. And so you can see that's $30 to $50 million per year, something we're spending like that. And, but that's countywide, that's the entire system. But you're right. Some of our pipes, like Board of Water Supply pipes, are 100 years old. Some, of course, are much newer than that. And so there is work, required in that area. Now, there is less stress on sewer pipes than there is on water pipes because they're under pressure. And so leaks have a much bigger effect and it's under pressure and the pipes can break. Sewer pipes can collapse. They can have leaks into them and stuff like that. But we also do have a few force mains, about 70 of them, but they're not very long. But when those break, it can have very bad results, like was in Waikiki in around 2009 when we had that force main break and had to pump water into the Alawai Canal. But there are force mains all over, and we do have to maintain those. Many of them now, after the consent decree work, have a backup. So there's two instead of just one in most places of the pipes that are under pressure. So we have backups. Yeah.
And I just had one more question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It's the project that, Waianae, not Waianae, Pupukea, that area out there. The sewer stops short of Waimea Bay. I presume that there's some sort of futuristic plan to put what would be called North Shore. I don't even know how it extends, because Kaneohe has its own, own thing, so it obviously stops there. But I don't know what's in between, Laie, whatever. I presume that you're thinking about doing something with that based on the EPA. I believe it's the EPA again that's talking about the pits in the ground.
Yeah. Cesspools.
What we had in Kaimiki.
Yeah. Cesspools. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for that question. So when the city puts in sewers where in unsewered areas where there are usually cesspools or septic tanks, that's called a sewer improvement district. And we have in our 6-year capital improvement program budget, which is what has to get approved by city council every year. It's another 6 years at a time. Each year we add a year on to the end of it. And that one has 18 sewer improvement district projects island-wide. But they would connect only if they all get completed, about 3,000 of the cesspools. There's 8,000 to 10,000 cesspools on the island. And so you were right. On the windward side, there's sewers from Waimanalo, Kailua, Kaneohe, and then Kohuku and Laie. Okay, but not everything in between. Laie town is all sewered. Kohuku, kind of a small area. But then there's nothing from Laie all the way around, even into Haleiwa. There's a small, very tiny little treatment plant in Haleiwa, serves only 200 homes, that was part of a development many, many years ago in the 70s. But most of the rest is all cesspools. And even on the west side, not everything is sewered. There's a Waianae treatment plant, but it doesn't go all up to Waianae Valley and lots of other places. So there is a need. However, we currently do not have plans to sewer the entire island. Putting in sewers is very expensive depending on how far apart the homes are. But at other places, homes are pretty close together and it's not so bad, and it's near sewer lines that we have already. So we will, those projects are included in here in these projections at some point. And most of them are out past 2030 because they're in planning and they take design and stuff like that. But it is a good question. But the city is not going to help everybody that has a cesspool. Some folks are going to kind of be on their own essentially. And then because there's a 2050, so there's a state law that says everybody needs to upgrade by 2050. and each of the owners.
They need to upgrade to the, it's a closed system. It's not a cesspool, it's not a,
Right.
not the old one that we had up in Kind of Cave.
Right.
It's a closed system.
Yeah, a septic
And
tank. Yeah,
Not a box, a metal container or something like that,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
can be concrete or fiberglass or plastic. Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Teresa.
I see this is for single family residential. Is there workable for multifamily or are they not impacted?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, everyone's impacted. We need 9% for all classes. So there are basically two big classes, residential and non-residential. Non-residential is all commercial, hotels, businesses, all that kind of stuff is all under non-residential. In residential, there's single-family residential and multifamily residential. So multifamily residential has a different monthly base charge. Otherwise, everything else is the same. For all classes, residential, non-residential, multifamily, single family, the $4.63 per thousand gallon is the same for everybody. So, and that will remain, the volumetric rate will be the same still for all classes. However, the monthly base charge for multifamily residential is lower. It's about 69%, I believe, of the single-family residential. And so as of today, that's $53.32 instead of $77.55. So that's if you live in a condo or something, or even a townhouse with multiple units. It's basically 5 or more units is in the multifamily. And so they pay a lower rate because that's based on water use and historic trends. So we know the data that they use less water per unit. And so that's why it's a little bit lower. But it does increase 9% and 9% and all that kind of stuff. Except for, remember, the base charge stays constant for the first 4 years, but the volumetric charge goes up. But yeah.
And then, so the assistance, I'm going to assume that is just for single family residential home addresses?
So currently, yes, that is the plan. It would be for single family residential. And I think because we don't have a way to do it's difficult with both, like with renters. How do you get to renters? Other utilities are struggling with that too. It's a challenge, but generally it's whoever's paying the bill that we're sending the bill to is who's eligible. Multifamily is also a challenge because there's an AOAO or something like that a lot of times, and they're the ones getting the bill. So how are they going to qualify for this 80% AMI? So it does need to be based on a single family combined income for household income. And then we have to have a bill that we can credit. So I can take $20 to $25 off easily of a base charge for a single family unit, but I wouldn't know how to do that for a 200 unit apartment building because I don't know how we're going to qualify.
They
all of
make
them.
apps for that now. Time to hire someone, a student, to create that because there are a lot of fixed income individuals who live in multifamily because of the fact that it's to share the cost across the board, but it does not mean that they wouldn't qualify for this. And then it just comes down to, I guess for me, feasibility. We're all paying into the same system, but I can't utilize this because the entity can't figure out how to do it. And I think that's a really bad excuse in 2025 when we can surely figure out if these 100 people applied and qualified, then theirs would go towards the bigger pocket. And that doesn't necessarily mean it makes it cheaper for me because I don't think my association is going to lessen my monthly maintenance fee. But I think it's worthwhile that maybe they should start looking at that and crediting each household. If I can save $25 off the top, I should be able to save $25 off the top. And that should come off. And that's for them to figure out now, taking that off my maintenance fee. Everything I can qualify for, even CNHA, all of these programs that as a Hawaiian I can qualify for. But because it's too hard to figure out, then we're just not going to let you play. And I think 2025, I think we're getting to a point where we could probably figure it out and put it in something. I just wanted to throw it out there because, you know, some of us don't have a choice because we can't afford $900,000 house, right? So we didn't have a choice but to buy a $500,000 townhouse to provide for our families. And so I think it would make sense going forward that we at least try to look at that and not just say, well, we don't know how to do it. Not on your fault, but now I know where to start talking story. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for that comment. It's a very good comment. It's definitely acknowledged. All I can tell you is that it's very challenging to figure out how to do that. But it is important, and we definitely agree on that. And I think, we'll try, we'll definitely look into it. We're going to do this and then see how that goes and then see what we can do. It's one thing to reduce somebody's bill. That's actually pretty easy to do. But giving somebody money, like a rebate, is very, very difficult to do. So that's the challenge. I can't write any of you a check or myself a check. But we can reduce people's bill. So anyway, yeah, but thanks. That's a very appreciated comment. I get it.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, hello. Roger, thank you for your presentation. I have a quick question about downtown. I'm at the, on Merchant Street, City Financial Tower. There's a building across the street from us, which is going to be converted into residential. That was offices. And the old Walmart building is going to be converted to residential. Question, is environmental providing recommendations to ensure that their systems can support the increased activity?
Yeah, so good question. Thanks for that. So, basically in order to do those conversions, they'll need building permits. And so when going through the DPP process, the number of units will be determined, and then the sewer bills will be, accordingly based on the number of units. So no need to worry about that side. Water, they'll have water use. We can get the volumetric amount. So, but in terms of our system, the system of sewer pipes and pump stations and the treatment plant, that's all going to Sand Island Treatment Plant from downtown. We do have adequate capacity, for those planned projects. Now, I can't say that for our entire system, the whole island, but in the downtown corridor and a lot of the TOD areas, we're in pretty good shape. There are other places, some up in places you wouldn't expect, up in neighborhoods in Kalihi and stuff. There's, inadequate sewer capacity. That's not true in Mililani. Basically, we got capacity up here. But where capacity is needed, we usually have projects already in place, that are needed in order to avoid spills, from our system. And if there is a huge amount of new building, perhaps projected or proposed for a certain area, they do work with E&B always to make, to check whether there's capacity and or what projects would be needed to increase capacity. And if that's the case, then a lot of times the developer would be required to pay for those upgrades if needed. It really depends on the type of project. If it's affordable housing, then the city is kind of a participant with the state and try to, work something out, but it just really depends.
Any other questions you have from the audience? Oh, go ahead.
Hello, Director, again, thank you for the information that you provided. You seem like a very smart man, especially with numbers. But quick question, if this plan doesn't go through, is there an alternate plan, a plan B? And generally, what would that be? Yeah, thanks for that question. So there isn't a plan B. We do have that court order deadline to get that one project finished. If you don't finish a project, it's in federal court, we start getting tens of thousands of dollars of fines per day, every day that we're late. So we have to finish that project. And in order to avoid getting back into a situation like that again, we need to keep up with all the other projects. Not just repair and rehabilitation like at the sewers like we were talking about, but also the treatment plants, because basically all treatment plants have an operating permit, which is called an NPDES permit. It's issued by the EPA and the State Department of Health. And those are good for 5 years. And so every 5 years, you have to renew your permit. You apply, get a new permit. Every 5 years, there's new requirements in the permit, and some of them do require construction. So there are new pollutants, new worries about the environment, where the water goes. And so they always get a little stricter. We always have to spend money to upgrade our plants. And so all that's factored in, everything that we know about. And so we really can't not do this. I hate to say that there's no plan B, but there's no plan B.
So, thanks, Roger. So what happens after 2040? The cost just stabilizes beyond that?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Chair. Things, as we go along, things can change. We know things will change, right? And it's hard to predict, really far into the future. But as we go along, kind of like how we got to today with 8 years without any increases, they made some projections, and it turns out they were a little bit overshot. And so we still have money today. We've been surviving well and getting all our projects done. And so that could happen, in the future too. So, but if there aren't a bunch of new regulations and stuff, then we basically would probably stick pretty close to inflation, the cost of inflation. One thing that does increase compared to today is the amount of debt service that we have. So we're funding a bunch of projects that have a lot of value. And so our amount of debt service will be increasing, but then it stabilizes, assuming we don't do a bunch more debt. But the debt financing is good because it spreads it out over many years. And so we also, just like with your home, we always have opportunities to refinance. And almost every year, we're refinancing some of our old debt. As soon as a rate is lower than what the current rate we're paying, we refinance. And it has these huge implications, right? Because it's 30 years. So we refinance a few bonds, and we save $30 million, over 30 years. And so we do that every year. We have great bond counsel and bankers that help us with that.
Understand. I think the main concern for the residents is such a sharp increase over a relatively short period of time, right? 10 years. So, their bill's going up by over 100%. And not your fault, but, to me, the city and county should have, once they entered into that consent decree in 2010, started to plan out these rate increases and started to phase them in from then on so that it wouldn't have such a major impact, to spike one time in 10 years. They didn't do that. Again, that's not on you. But, timing is another thing. We mentioned about condominiums. You're going to raise these sewer rates on these condominiums, and they can't even get insurance on the condominiums. So we're kind of like, it's a double whammy for these guys. So I guess the timing is not great. It never is great, but for them, it's terrible, and it's going to be terrible. So that's just my comment. But I know you're just the messenger. Like I said, you weren't there in 2010 or 2011. They really should have started phasing in these cost increases to the residents so that they could have gradually built them up over time. And then you guys would have been able to build up your reserves or had enough money to start doing these projects, maybe even sooner, than you plan to. But again, thank you for coming out here. I do appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome. And happy to come back anytime if there's other, talk about that, or you want to talk about that thing that starts with the letter L. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Okay. All right, we move on to residents' concerns. Do we have any residents' concerns this evening that are not on our agenda? Anyone online? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our elected officials report. Office of Governor Josh Green, Mel Martin.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me, Chair Hazama?
Yes, go ahead, Mel.
Okay. Hi, good evening, Chair Hazama, members of the neighborhood board, community members, those in person and virtually. Happy New Year. My name is Mililani Martin. I'm the governor's representative for this neighborhood board. This morning, the governor gave his state of the state address, and he highlighted a few key initiatives and accomplishments. First is he talked about affordability, and he said that we all know the cost of living in Hawaii is so high. And what he did is in his first year, he lowered taxes. And last year, the legislature passed and the governor signed into law the largest income tax cut for families in the state's history. And he also increased the child dependent care tax credit and doubled the food and earned income tax credit. So he really is trying to make it affordable to live here in Hawaii. He mentioned that all of these tax initiatives will result in a $5.6 billion in savings over the next 7 years. Next, he talked about housing. I know that's a really big issue for a lot of families in Hawaii. And what he mentioned was that he's accelerating the development of nearly 7,000 units statewide under an emergency proclamations. And he's tracking 62,000 units over 257 projects in the next decade for affordable housing. In terms of the budget, he's requesting $500 million in the next fiscal biennium for workforce housing, as well as to benefit Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. And this includes $250 million in the rental housing revolving fund. He also addressed homelessness, and he mentioned that there's already 17 kauhale units, which are tiny like houses in villages for the homeless. And he proposes by the end of 2026, we'll have 30 kauhale villages. He moved on to healthcare, and he talked a little bit about the healthcare education loan repayment program, and that he's going to propose and request funding to continue that program for healthcare students who are willing to work in like rural areas and underserved communities. And also Governor Green is proposing to fund rural hospitals, behavioral health centers in those areas, as well as make Medicaid improvements. For public safety, he spoke about 2 new gun safety laws, and he also talked about 2 successful gun buybacks that they had last year. Then he talked about fireworks and that he established a fireworks task force that recovered and seized nearly 227,000 pounds of fireworks. But he did say that after this year's New Year's accident in Aliomanu, he said we really need to do more. So they'll be pursuing legislation to ensure that illegal fireworks doesn't get into our state, and to really crack down on illegal fireworks, especially aerials. Governor Green then went on to talk about climate and environment, and he talked about the climate advisory team, so that he's establishing a climate advisory team to tackle the challenges of climate-related disasters. And he encouraged the legislature to fund these initiatives to address climate impact. In that same vein, he talked about the Maui recovery efforts and the Lahaina wildfires. And he mentioned the investment of $2 billion in federal disaster relief and $800 million in state funds to support survivors and rebuild communities. And he also talked about enhancing wildfire prevention measures. And that's about it for the State of the State address. I'm here to address any questions. Thank you, Chair Osama.
Any questions for the governor's office? Yeah, go ahead, Stevie.
Ms. Martin, Steve Melendres here. Quick question. What is the status of the governor's insurance task force?
I don't know what the status is, but I can take this back to the governor's office and ask them, and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, and also with that question, who's chairing the task force for the governor?
I'll get that answer for you, Steve.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the governor's office? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Congressman Ed Case's office. Is Nestor online?
How are you doing, Chairman, members of the board?
Hey,
Can
good
you
evening,
hear me?
Nestor. Yeah, go
How are you,
ahead.
sir. Thank you. For the record, Nestor Garcia here, Communications Director here in the district for Congressman Ed Case. Our normal once a quarter appearance, although, Mr. Chairman, if you actually want to call me back to your board for any unanswered questions, I'll be happy to come back more frequently. I believe I had sent a PDF electronically to your board. I'm not sure if you received it. I can go over it quickly, but I think the two main highlights I want to share with the board and with the community is that the congressman himself will be in person to do what he refers to as his talk stories, town hall, if you will. This will be next Wednesday night. Mililani High School cafeteria. We start at 6:30. In the evening, we'll run till 8 p.m. Congressman will be in person to answer any questions and concerns that his constituents in Mililani, Mauka may have, and any other neighboring communities that want to descend upon the cafeteria at Mililani High School next Wednesday. One of the measures that the congressman actually recently introduced, this was just last week, speaking to the question of, on everybody's mind, the concern actually, of affordability and high cost of living. He reintroduced what's referred to as the Affordable Shipping for All Act. And this is especially targeted for those non-contiguous areas of our country, namely Hawaii, Alaska, Guam, American Samoa, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Northern Marianas. What he's trying to do here, along with his Republican colleague, Delegate James Moylan of Guam, the two of them reintroduced this measure. They did this last year. They're doing it again on this in this current Congress, the 119th. There are 4 reasons why we are introducing the Affordable Shipping for All Act. First, as confirmed by the Federal Trade Commission, many online retailers outright refuse to ship basic products to our parts of the United States, effectively treating our areas as if we were foreign countries. I don't know if anyone has ever had this experience, but I can recount that I have people calling our office more than once about why a certain motorcycle company will not ship parts to Hawaii. Secondly, even when retailers do offer shipping to the non-contiguous areas, they frequently deny customers free shipping options. They deny free shipping options. Third, when private shipping services are made available, the prices are often inflated and bear no reasonable relation to the actual distance. For example, if you were to ship a 2-pound package from Los Angeles to Hawaii, the cost can exceed $45. While the same package from Los Angeles to New York City, the same distance, costs only $14. Price disparity. And fourth, and this is just recently, for those that might have experienced this, the United States Postal Service also treats the non-contiguous areas unfairly. recently created a new Zone 10 for shipments to Hawaii, Alaska, and other non-contiguous areas, which will increase shipping rates for Priority Mail Express, Priority Mail, USPS Ground Advantage packages to and from those locations by 5%. The cost went up by 5%. This is the new Zone 10. Okay. So these four reasons are why Congressman Case and Congressman Moylan of Guam reintroduced the Affordable Shipping for All Act. Just wanted to highlight those two items for you, Mr. Chairman, members. Any questions you might have?
Thank you, Nestor. Any questions for Congressman Case's office? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Nestor. Appreciate it.
See you all guys next Wednesday night, 6:30, Mililani High School. Thank you.
Next is Office of Mayor Langiardi. Carrie, is Carrie online? Carrie, are you on?
Hi,
Yeah, go
good
ahead.
evening, Chair Hazama, board members, and community of Launani, Mauka. Carrie Castle, Budget and Fiscal Services Deputy Director, representing Mayor Blangiardi this evening. Just a quick note of information. While Dr. Babcock was providing an update on the sewer fee increases, I dropped into the chat a link to his flyer, as well as a link to the Department of Environmental Services website, where it provides all the information that Roger Babcock was sharing with respect to the sewer fee increases. Yeah, because for those that were virtual, we didn't get to actually view that information. So anyway, I dropped it into the chat. With respect to updates from Mayor Blangiardi, so along with the other county mayors, Mayor went before the Senate Ways and Means Committee this afternoon, as well as the Finance Committee, and very much in sync with what Melanie represented, that that Governor Green talked about. At the priority for Mayor Blangiardi, he talked about affordable housing, working with the state, trying to ensure that we can continue to provide and improve upon, new infrastructures, develop housing for our residents. We all know that at the state and at the city level, whatever we can do to provide more housing for our residents, that is a top priority. In addition, the city is working with the state in partnership on homelessness, and together, working in concert with the state, we trying to do our best to improve upon actually looking for shelter, providing shelter for homeless. The mayor also provided a quick update on Skyline. So the second segment of Skyline is expected to open in the fourth quarter of calendar 2025. We're very grateful to the state for the portion of both TAT and GET taxes that are helping to fund construction for rail. I would also like to mention that with respect to DPP, that continues to be a high priority for Mayor Blangiardi in terms of improving DPP. And so Director Apuna Takeuchi is really she is making a difference in terms of implementing automation so that efficiencies can be gained versus a longstanding challenges because things were very manual. With that, I'll move on to the issues from our last meeting. So issue number one has to do with the Mililani brush fire report from the incident that happened on October 30, 2023. So as was noted by HFD earlier in the meeting, we are still waiting for a report from the U.S. Fish and Wildfire Service. The investigation is still ongoing. Our HFD fire investigator is keeping us informed on the status of this investigation, and we will definitely let you know when it is completed, and that when we can provide the report, we will definitely do so. There's nothing additional that Mililani Mauka Neighborhood Board needs to do at this time. We will continue to check on the status of this report. The next item has to do with the start of the roadwork project. So this is the rehabilitation of the local streets, and so construction started on October 14, 2024. The construction is anticipated to be completed in the summer of 2025, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Any questions for the mayor's office this evening? Yeah, come on up. Yeah, otherwise she can't hear you. Marty, come on up.
Marty Odegaro, resident here in Mililani. Two questions on the landfill, a new site. The mayor just did, the first question, the mayor just did a community talk at Wahiwa. When is he going to do one in Mililani? This is the first question. The second question is, I understand these talks are going to be done throughout the year. Is your office going to be publishing a schedule of these talks and the locations? That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that question. I don't know if Dr. Babcock is still there, but that is something, that he could definitely provide some updates on that information.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. So right now, we don't have any other town halls scheduled, but I think we'll probably be doing some more. There are a series of town halls planned for the summer. There are other landfill meetings to be scheduled. I know that Wahiwa Neighborhood Board folks are planning a town hall. I don't know, Councilman Wire, if there's anything else planned right now, but I'm sure there's going to be other public meetings. So that's about the landfill. And then I wasn't sure, was there a question about some other meetings as well? Oh, I see. Like landfill or just other communities. Yeah, so we generally don't know, that far in advance, like plan for a whole year of meetings. But we post them on our website. We do press releases, and we try to get the word out as best we can whenever there's going to be community meetings. And a lot of times they would get announced. Some of them come to neighborhood boards as announcements, and so they get there. Sometimes they're on flyers that we have here. But we do our best to try and get them out. And for the landfill specifically, we do have a special website, all about the landfill. If you go to the ENV website, honolulu.gov/ENV, at the very top in the banner, there's always a link to anything to do with landfill. So you can always call our office too if you have any questions about when there might be a meeting, or your council member. They always know what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for the mayor's office? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Oh, Chair, I'd just like to make one more comment about the question with respect to other town hall meetings. So what Mayor Blangiardi has been doing for the last several years is conducting actual town hall meetings from neighborhood to neighborhood. We will definitely start the round again. And this will probably start to happen in the May timeframe. So you can look forward to that.
Okay,
Chair.
Yep.
Chair.
thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I had a question for Carrie.
Go ahead.
It came up over the week. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
The park and ride, have we got any updates on the bicycle shelter? If there's any movement, is there work orders? Is there a decision whether they're going to remove it? It is again filled with lots of trash. It's a little smelly.
So, Teresa, thank you for that question. I believe the last update we received from DTS was that it was going to be relocated, but let me reach out to them again with more up-to-date information and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Moving on to, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh. Carrie, I have a question for you. Hold on.
I'm Rick Bloxham. I'm from Oloa. My question to you is, we've been talking about this green garbage dump for about a year and a half or more. And have you ever had any keys issued for it? The bike thing?
Oh, the bike shelter.
Yeah. Have you had any keys issued?
I believe keys were issued. What,
You got to have a key to get in and put your bike in there in
right?
order to ride the bus, but there's no need to do that because the bus has bike racks.
Let me, sorry, I don't have that exact information, but let me get that for you and report back in the next meeting.
Just one other question. I understand why you originally did it because the buses did not have bike racks.
Uh-huh.
Fast forward, we decided to get bike racks. Now they have a lot with 3. Why did we decide to put this in when the buses already had the capability to carry the bikes? I know it was in the original plan.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it had a cost of a fair chunk of change. Why did we do it is the question.
I think to your point, as you know, originally when
Yeah, I agree.
things have changed. But your question obviously is, you know, now that things are actually our mode of transportation and ability to put bikes on the buses and so forth has changed, you know, why haven't we maybe updated our plans? So
That's my
again,
question.
yeah, again,
Why didn't you
thank you.
update the plans and not put it in? Since, I mean, bikes racks been on for a while. 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Appreciate the question. I will take this back to
Yeah.
our Department of Transportation Services and respond back.
Thank you very much.
Chair, Chair, can to that point, I think the bigger issue is how filthy it is. So if it were maintained, I think if someone who has a key can go in and clean it, DTS, OTS, whoever oversees that area, that I think it would be less of an issue because you wouldn't have all that stuff coming out when it rains. And I mean, there's toilet tissue that has come out before, feces. So I don't know how they might just be throwing it in there because it's locked and nobody can squeeze in or under it. But I think there would be less of an eyesore or an issue for the community if someone actually went in there and cleaned it regularly. That might be something you want to just pass on. Thank you.
Yeah, I know this question keeps coming up about the bike shelter. And at one point, the suggestion was to remove it altogether. And then we asked the community, is that what you want, to remove it altogether? Because, you know, to have somebody continue to clean it, maintain it, go in there and all that, that's not, unfortunately, you know, from a capacity and providing services, that's not something that we can continue to do on an ongoing basis. So I think what the community asked for then was the request to have it removed. So that
correct.
was my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct, Carrie.
Okay, so I will follow up with Department of Transportation Services as to the timing for removal of that bike shelter.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Council District 8, Councilmember Kimoto.
Good evening, Chair Hazama, Vice Chair Tamashiro, members of the board, and members here in the from the community as well as online. Councilmember Val Aquino Okimoto, District 8 Council Member. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for having us. Just a quick legislative update. We did have, you have before you two of my newsletters since most boards recess in December, but I do have in there the December report. And at that time, we were able to say aloha to former Speaker of the House and Councilmember Calvin Say. He was I had the pleasure of serving with him in the House as well as in the Council, and he was a great mentor. So on December 1st, we did honor him at the Council. And I'm very thankful personally for, you know, his decades of public service. And I did share how now that I don't have sunshine law, I can ask him any questions at any time. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I was able to benefit slightly from his retirement because we did bring a new member onto my office team, and her name is Pua Smith Kauhane. She actually is online taking notes for me, and she comes from former Speaker Say's office. You will see her around with me in the community. She may be representing me on the board occasionally as well. And she also came from the NCO, so she has a lot of experience and knowledge of neighborhood boards. So thank you, Pua, for joining our team. She did put into the chats some links. I think my newsletter's in there, as well as real property tax deadline, a schedule for that, and also complete streets. But if you have any other questions, you can send that through the chat or through myself, and she will take notes, and we will get back to you if I don't have the answers at this time. We did also have in January, on I believe the 2nd, our council inauguration. So the newly elected and re-elected council members were sworn in. Councilmember Wire and I were not a part of that this year. We hope to be a part of that in 2 years. And soon after that, we did have our committee hearing week. So just a couple of bills that have been we're continuing to consider and that have been introduced. Bill 52, that was of Bill 52, 2024 relating to the electric bicycles. We did have a resolution that I introduced that passed and went through to address this issue. And now there's a bill going through amending the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 to regulate the possession and use of bicycles and electric bicycles. So that's still going through, and we look forward to having a good discussion. Hopefully we can work with the state legislature as they're having their session at this time to see what we can do to amend the classifying of these bikes. Resolution 24-267 was urging the city administration and the Honolulu Police Department to develop a plan during fiscal year 2025 to create a new police substation in the Mililani area. And we actually had this resolution heard in the Public Safety Committee, which I currently am still the chair of. The committee is now called Public Safety and Community Customer Services. So that I continue to be the chair of that. We did hear this resolution, and I understand the police department has concerns because of the feasibility with their staffing, knowing that I just wanted to make sure that our community concerns are addressed and at least heard and acknowledged. So we'll continue to work with that. The resolution did pass the Public Safety Committee, and it is going to the full council next week during our full council hearing. And then we did have in that same hearing last week an informational briefing, and we were able to receive an update on the fireworks enforcement for the city and county of Honolulu. And this was in great response to the incident that happened on New Year's Eve / morning. So that was really informational. If you would like to see what was shared, that you can find that on the Honolulu City Council website through the Public Safety Committee, the video should be up. Some constituent, oh, and in your newsletter, I think in the December, just a quick community. I love to do things in the community. So aside from the parades and other things that were happening in December, I was able to, for the first time, I know others have been able to participate as a judge, but this was the time I got to participate as a top Chef Limu judge. And that was interesting. The keiki at the high school are very creative, and thankful for the teachers who invited me. Other than that, I did want to mention just some constituent concerns that were brought to my office's attention and give you a little summary of what we've been doing. A letter was written to DPP to help further along a specific permit. This constituent is looking to build an ADU for their mom after her dad or their dad had passed away. It's been a little over 60 months and counting since they submitted the permit, so we're following up on that. We addressed a concern regarding 2 large trees near Kelakela Place in Mauka. The trees have lifted the cemented sidewalks. The constituent reported roots were interfering with the water valves or pipes from the Board of Water Supply and creating a significant cracks in the concrete perimeter tile fence. So we're working on that. We have spoken to the administration about providing more staff to help with the trash collection delays. And I know Director Babcock has in the past mentioned that a lot of it is dealing with the equipment shortage, the trucks that we're getting more of, but we are continuing to work with that because I know that trash collection has been a concern in our community. And we have requested to put a blinking light warning at the crosswalk at the top of the off-ramp at Mauka to keep these pedestrians safer. So, I mean, I just saw one today. You know, the section right before you go across the H2, it's rather dangerous. So I had some constituents and friends contact me that they're concerned that kids or pedestrians are running across or riding their bikes across and causing a safety hazard. So we have put in a request for that, as well as a request at the top of Mililani where Ike is. We have a new crosswalk there that was requested for years, but now there are still concerns that family members and keiki are running across. And so the request was to see if we can put some kind of delineator, blinking light, something to cause attention that if there's pedestrians crossing the traffic passing through, we'll be aware. So that is also in the works, and I'll give you updates as we get them. And I think the Lehiva project was mentioned, the road paving project was mentioned already. Other than that, I will gladly take questions at this time.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, fireworks. Who is in charge of that? Is it the state or the city council or both?
No, so that is well, the HPD has to enforce it, but the state law enforcement office is in charge of. I should say HPD is responsible when they find someone setting off or having possession of those fireworks, the consumers. But the state law enforcement office is the one that is responsible to crack down on the import of them. And recently, you saw in the news, they are changing the director of that. So Major Mike Lambert is leaving his HPD position and will now go to the state law enforcement position. I think that's starting February 1st, I believe.
So can the city council express a very strong position on the fireworks? For
Definitely,
instance,
yes.
if I'm sitting in my chair at home,
Mhm.
minding my own business, being very quiet, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
and they set off one of those cannons,
Mhm.
my heart literally stops. And I'm not the only one. I mean, I cannot be the only one. But I understood that the state is
Mhm.
responsible basically for that. And I think basically, in my opinion, the police department and the dock workers need to get together and really work on the dock. And they need to use bomb sniffing dogs or whatever they call them and everything else to stop them from coming in, because that's the only way it's going to stop.
Thank you.
And there's going to be more.
Yeah, your concerns are not, there's concerns across the board. In that informational briefing, I would encourage you to go and if you can view it, because there was a lot of information about definitions. Right now, it's challenging to enforce because of the way things are defined. Councilmember Kia Aina and myself actually introduced a bill, Bill 7, to increase penalties for those who are found in possession of these illegal aerials. But the challenge is that we actually can't supersede the state law. So we have to abide by whatever they put will supersede ours. However, Major Lambert shared in our informational briefing that a lot of what he's going to work on, or he hopes to work on, is to define things properly so that then it can be enforced either from the state, the DLE, or our HPD when it comes time to enforcing. That's the challenge at this point, how this can be enforced. I did appreciate, I watched part of the governor's State of the State today. He has encouraged just citizens to be responsible community members because it is challenging police and our law enforcement can't be everywhere. But I know after the incident on New Year's morning that this is at the forefront of everyone's minds. I don't have, complete answers. We have a bill 7, but we were told that, again, we understand that we can't supersede the state's legislation. So even if we increase penalties, the problem that I've been focusing on is how can we enforce it? The laws are already in place. It's not being able to be enforced. So, and it doesn't, at this point, it hasn't mattered whatever the penalties have been, but that's something that I know the state and the city are working on.
As far as I know, the state law does not have any teeth in it, and that's one of the big problems. And so the problem needs to be addressed from an enforcement position, an investigation position, a dock worker, because there is some way that stuff is getting in here. And I've known it for a long time. I grew up with Roman candles and those sparkler things and stuff. And I lived
This is
down
different.
in Bikini
Yeah,
and
it's
watched,
different.
and we had fires because of the Roman candles. So I do understand that. But they're not anything like these cannons that are going off.
Thank you for sharing. And
We had cherry.
I did hear in our informational briefing that I'm guessing, we know that a lot comes into the docks unchecked, but they did share, Major Lambert, or I think the assistant acting chief or major chief was saying that it's coming through the mail. I mean, he even said through the airlines. I don't know how accurate that is. I'm not sure how common that is, but it's not just one source, although we can assume that most of our shipments come in through the docks. But that is something that I know Major Lambert is really passionate about. He is, leaving his position at HPD and taking on the state law enforcement director position.
Okay, any other questions?
I do have a question. Actually, I just kind of want to bring it up again. So a lot of other towns are putting in the speed humps everywhere. Next to every school, there's a speed hump every 5 feet. It's kind of crazy. I don't want to see that necessarily happen here. However, places like Kailua Town, they have the rapid flashing beacons. And I think the Complete Streets with the city was looking at installing them in different areas. I'm curious, and it might be a state / county thing to work on, but schools, it should be mandatory that, I mean, even here with Mililani Mauka Elementary, I mean, we have a 4-way cross, but people still don't stop. And then now we have the new crosswalk right here that has no stop signs on the main road. I mean, it almost feels like the Department of Education should just require that for city and state should require that where there's schools to have that, especially if we don't have the speed humps, not like many people still do speed humps. But I'm wondering if there's any follow-up, because I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago that the city was looking, a part of the city Complete Streets project and program, that they were implementing it. And we saw it in Kailua Town over the winter break. And they have it on different school campuses. Kamehameha Schools has it in certain areas where there's a lot of kids crossing, like the pool. It's super, it works. You can see it. You can't miss it. So maybe that's something
Okay,
we can look at.
follow up. I know that I believe last year there was a law that we passed to decrease all school zones down to, is it 15, Matt? 15. So that's one way. As far as with the speed humps and all of these other traffic road things, we do have to go through DTS. And when I first got into the council, we were told 3 to 6 months. Now it's longer. twice as long. So I would just really encourage you to email my office with specific areas that you have concerns about. And then we will submit that and they will let us know the feasibility of when they can go out there and look. And we really encourage constituents to send in pictures of specific areas. It really helps when we submit the risers in so that DTS or whichever department we need to work with will know of what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, real quick.
Val, thank you for your presentation and discussion here. Question. You are working on, you have worked on the e-bike issues, correct? That's regulating the uses, right?
Well, I passed a resolution urging the state, because it's not a city issue. So we are working with the state and hopefully this year we're looking to reclassifying. The resolution that I did have passed started the administration, they put together a task force at the city level. And then this bill came about. Councilmember Dos Santos Sam and I think Talba put this one together after. So we're hoping to create something so that we can have the state look at it to see what they can do to help us here in our city.
Great. Did you address the safety issues with the batteries?
I believe that in my resolution that was listed in there because they are a fire hazard.
Yeah, with the thermal runaway. Remember about 6 weeks ago, e-bike had thermal runaway in IAEA in the garage, burned down a third of the house.
That's a valid concern. And I think, things that hopefully all consumers and residents are being conscientious of as they purchase and store these.
So are you still inputting in that bill, correct? You're inputting to the state?
This bill, the bill that I mentioned, I think is Bill 54, 52. Yeah, 5224. I'd have to double check to see if that specifically is in it. We have been amending it, but we can look into it and see if
Could you
that was
please?
interesting.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Any other questions for Councilmember Okimoto? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Val.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Council District 2, Councilmember Wire. Good evening.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, community members. Happy New Year. We did distribute our newsletter. Pages 2 and 3 have a lot of information and background on the landfill. I know folks may already be up to date on everything that's going on, so I won't dive into it too much. On the back side, we do have our legislative updates for some of the measures we introduced. Also, the committees on the left side, we're still chairing housing sustainability, adding economy, and then health is our committee. And then the first 7 on that list are committees that we're voting members on. Of course, we're able to participate in all committees. So wanted to just highlight some of the legislation we've been working on. And note that I do have a lot of respect for Director Babcock. I know the conversation we had today about sewer rates was really important. Acknowledge Chair's comment about how this is an issue that I think in mentioning how long it has been put off at times, we see this need to have the larger rates. And so the city council right now with the bill before it, I think is looking and discussing ways to offset that. I think the challenge is that when you have a $10 billion cost, it's hard to offset that with the city's operating budget. That's maybe a third of that at most every year. And so we'll continue to look at that and have discussions with the community and welcome input on that, and also appreciate Board Member Kuehu's comment about making the CARES program more accessible. Resolution 25003 is a resolution that we co-introduced with Councilmember Radiant Cordero, a councilmember that currently has Red Hill in our district. I know our director doesn't like when I make the comparison, and just note that I have the utmost respect for mayor and director, given the situation and the lack of options that they currently have under the land use commission order and also the state law that's in effect. And so do appreciate and understand it's a difficult decision and one that was made sincerely. In terms of the resolution, really it's standing with the Board of Water Supply and their opposition and rejection of this particular site due to its location above our drinking water. The resolution itself reaffirms the city policy. It was passed in 2003 via resolution introduced by then Councilmember Mike Gabbard. In terms of city opportunities to oppose the landfill, and I shared this with the community at our December 14th emergency community response meeting that was virtual given the timing. And then also at our recent town hall on January 15th that we just had in Wahiawa. You know, for us, we're going to use all legal avenues to stop the landfill in terms of the location it's being proposed at. Don't want folks to be losing sleep over this. You know, it is a marathon in a lot of ways. And so in terms of city process, you know, we'll be passing this resolution. We do have our attorneys looking at legislation we could introduce. There's some limitations in our charter about what's within council's authority and the department's authority. But with that said, I think I've already made it clear to the department that we anticipate proposing provisos in the budget we get from mayor in March to ensure that none of our city budget can be utilized for this purpose going forward. And then of course, there's other logistical resolutions that have to come through that of course we'll be voting against and urging our colleagues to do that as well. And I'll just note, without having all the bill numbers in front of me, that the legislature has also introduced a number of bills that Senator Dela Cruz, Representative Russo, and Representative Quinlan, among others, including the House Environmental Caucus, have put forward. And so we just encourage folks to follow those if it's a topic of interest and submit testimony. And for our resolution 25003, that'll be, we anticipate, on the full council agenda on the 29th. So we welcome testimony on that resolution to initiate that process and at least, you know, put forward the council being on the same page. And from there, I think we can have continued conversations. It did pass out a committee already with all 5 members voting yes. And we had a friendly amendment from Councilmember Kiaina, who wasn't a voting member. And so we are hopeful that the resolution will pass out of full council. And then of course, we'll go forward with the other suggestions and proposals we mentioned. Wanted to highlight Bill 64. It's a bill to expand the city's down payment assistance program. So many people actually don't know, but the city has a 0% interest down payment loan program. That's underutilized, not because of lack of hard work by our Department of Community Services, but because it's a federal funded program through the Department of Housing or HUD. It's income limited at 80% AMI. And then of course, when you look at those income limits and then where our market is, it's going to be hard for a lot of those folks to qualify for homes. And when you look at that income limit, as Director mentioned, about 100,000 being the area median income, 80% of that. When you look at the types of folks, say a teacher and a firefighter or working families, oftentimes are above that 80% threshold, but still in need of assistance. And so we're excited about this. The Department of Community Services is interested in working with us on this. Also at the same time, the State Department of Hawaii Housing Financing and Development Corporation, HHFDC, is looking at restarting up a program that they're authorized to do under their admin roles. And so we're going to be meeting with the City Department, DCS, HHFDC this week, along with Councilmember Cordero, who co-introduced the measure with us, to talk through, you know, where the city can maybe fill gaps and complement the state program, and also ensure that, you know, we're meeting the needs across the spectrum in terms of getting folks into housing. We also had Bill 61 that was pretty straightforward bill. It came from the community and having conversations about preventing or outlawing wheelies. And the idea for it was just a really clear standard and a really broad definition of an e-bike. And it's kind of in the same vein of what Councilmember Okimoto was discussing. On top of the batteries, on top of all the issues, one of the issues we've also seen is that there's a lot of these bikes that fall outside of the classification in state law as they make new ones and the market grows. And so the goal was just to provide a real broad standard and an easily citable offense, right? Because right now these wheelies are cited under reckless driving. And so the idea was just something where officer sees it, can pull them over, can cite it, go on their way to respond on, you know, to other issues in the community. And then when they come to court, it's a really, really low evidentiary burden, right? They're not having to testify about, you know, motor capacity or battery or all these technical details that often are barriers to having tickets actually be enforced in court. And of course, I think that speaks to kind of one of the challenges we've seen with fireworks. With HPD, they're showing up after the fireworks exploded, even stepping back from that with the amount of fireworks we see on like a holiday, even if we had every HPD officer out there, it would be too much. But coming to the enforcement side, they show up, the evidence is already exploded. And so having, I think, these broader definitions, as Councilmember Okimoto mentioned, are really helpful in the sense that if it's an offense or something that's visually an officer is able to testify to, that is what qualifies as the crime, it would make it easier to enforce in court. And I think also, as folks have mentioned, having civil penalties is one mechanism as well, instead of having to meet that high bar that criminal offenses require. Bill 51 was a bill that we're happy passed out of council, was signed by mayor, relates to the adaptive reuse projects that came up earlier, specifically limited to adaptive reuse. So particularly these buildings in town, oftentimes commercial buildings that are underutilized now, particularly after COVID. And so how can we transition some of those into housing? And so the purpose of the bill was just to clarify or loosen some of the requirements in the housing code while still providing safeguards. And it is limited, as I mentioned, to these adaptive reuse projects. So the standard housing codes applies to all the other new development. And of course, they're still required to comply with all the safety requirements, all the permitting requirements from BWS, Board of Water Supply, Environmental Services for sewer. And then wanted to highlight Bill 59 that passed out last year, relating to tax incentives for film studios, specifically creating an environment where we could see a film studio at UH West Oahu. Just wanted to highlight that because I think it's really important and signals areas we can be working in terms of diversifying our economy, of course, while strengthening the industries we already have. But yeah, appreciate everybody's time and happy to take any questions. Oh, I did want to mention Board Member Rogers' question earlier about cesspools and sewers, because I actually had the conversation with Director Babcock today, and then also the city's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resilience. We have a draft bill that would create a grant program for cesspool conversion and possibly even the sewer hookup fee, when the city puts in sewer. And again, I know the state's done its grant programs run out super quickly because of the number we have. But if we're looking at Oahu specifically, 8,000 units, if we're able to sewer about 3,000 of those, and then had an income limited grant program, could be 80% AMI, could be 100% AMI, could be at cost, or we could set like a $50,000 limit. Oftentimes these cesspool conversions may range in the 10 to 30, but then when you look at constraints because of the property design or layout, sometimes it goes up to 50 or higher. And so thinking of the resilience fund that just passed, the voters passed to amend our charter and create this resilience fund, 0.5% of all of our tax revenue is going to go into that fund. And so we just saw that as an opportunity to make those funds available to the community, to maybe do these cesspool conversions to do septic. So wanted to mention that because thought of that. So that was a great question earlier, but thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Council Member. Any questions for Teresa? Go ahead.
I just was thinking about with regards to fireworks, because it's not going to go away. I don't care how hard someone works. There's always someone who will just forget the law is for them and they'll do it whether they're in law enforcement or not. With that being said, maybe we have to look at it from a different angle as opposed to we have to find the person holding it, lighting it, and then letting it go. How about we just make the homeowner responsible? Wherever property it's on, it's no different than if someone ran a red light with my car, it comes to me as a registered owner, I get the ticket. Why not just make, it doesn't matter who's on the property, who let it off. You're the property owner, you're responsible for whatever happens on your property. Game rooms, everything. It's the property owner, not the individual. And I think that's where we're missing the ability to tighten up that, where we don't have to have the police officer come and look like a jerk because, well, I have to see the person light it and then, do all of that. Just make the property owner responsible. Maybe we have to start looking at legislation, both sides of the table, that maybe we just, you're the homeowner, you're responsible. That's it. Whatever happened. I think maybe we have to start going that route instead of trying to finagle all the fine lined legalese. I'm just really tired of people who move into new neighborhoods and think that the rules of the neighborhood don't apply to them because they've never lived in an association. And then we have all of our kupuna that are right next to it and just, you know, having to hear the blast. And our apartment building, our townhouses were shaking. We've never had that in the last 10 years that we've lived in Launani Valley, had that happen. But it was very easy to target which two houses were responsible. But again, I'm not going to bother HPD to come out if they have to figure out what one person lit it. So I think if we start moving in a different angle, that we might be able to actually scoop a bigger net in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And actually, I agree 100%. I mean, I can tell you as a former prosecutor, I mean, actually, I won't tell you all of the different traffic offenses and how to get out of them, but the evidentiary burden just grows, even for these civil low-level offenses. So I think looking at civil penalties is a great idea. And as you mentioned, for even the game rooms and the gambling houses, because even that, you know, talking to HPD, what we found out is that many of them will have code violations, you know, for the various components of the property. And oftentimes, you know, if you shut down a game room, the detective is going to come in, their focus is criminal investigation for those folks that they arrested. But then if we had a supplemental person at HPD, it could do the code look at the code violations, do the investigation, and then have those discussions with the property owner, could prevent it from opening up. So I think that's spot on and appreciate that. In fact.
Same with illegal parking, right? You have a no parking sign and they come out, they're like, well, it's a little ambiguous because this part has a permit and, you know, they moved the sign here. And I said, well, when you're over there, check all their tags. Why don't we give them something for the effort? You came out, and one of the officers was very diligent and he called me and he's like, I ran out of tickets. I'm so sorry. But again, finding the opportunity, you're parked on a public street. Now your tags are all out of date. Well, we're just going to give you that ticket since it's a little ambiguous. So I think using that logic while we're in there and we have eyes on it, why aren't we looking at everything else that we can address? And then as the laws start to progress. But yeah, if we're in there, let's.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Anyone online? Okay, Councilmember, thank you very much on your work with the landfill. I'm sure we'll have a future discussion. That's a whole different meeting on that
Okay.
L word, so.
I'll be here. Yeah. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, Senator District 17, Senator De La Cruz's office. Anyone online?
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and community members. My name is Charles Miller, and I'm from Senator De La Cruz's office. The first thing I wanted to address is the Mililani Tech Park. You guys had questions from the November meeting regarding the Tech Park parcel. So the first one was, what are the permitted uses for the parcel? The answer is state land use. It was urban, and for county zoning, it was Ag 1. And then what are the plans for the parcel under the ADC? The Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism is still working on a plan for the use. All we know is that the Ag Business Development Corporation, ADC, will be acquiring the parcel from the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. And then I can put in the chat the parcel number if you guys would like that. The second part is funding released by the governor for the Mililani EK Elementary School play court. $1 million was released on December 23rd, 2024 for design and construction. And the last bit is the biosecurity bill. Senate Bill 1100 will establish a new deputy director for the biosecurity to manage all biosecurity programs, establishing a transitional facilities to program to allow greater inspection of cargo parcels without slowing down operations of the ports of entry, increasing penalties for illegally transporting plants, animals, and microorganisms, and it will continue the funding from last session. And thank you, Chair. And now I would like to address any questions or concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Senator De La Cruz's office? Anyone online? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, moving on to House District 38, Representative Matsumoto.
I'll wear high heels next time. Good evening, Chair, members of the board, and members of the public. Lauren Matsumoto, representative for District 38. It is chilly out there today. And so, as was mentioned, last week, Wednesday, was our opening day of the legislature. It was a wonderful event, was able to address the legislature and give a speech along with the speaker and the majority leader. And so you'll see some pictures there. It was also the first time that I was able to have my entire family on the floor with me. And so that was great. My 2 children made it through the 2-hour session. So that was 2.5. It was long. Yes. The kids did well on opening day for as long as it went. So we haven't seen you for a while. So there are a lot of updates within the mailer. I don't think I'm going to go through every single one, but I did want to show you, if you didn't receive this in the mail, everybody should have. But this is the New Year's, but on the back, what's really important is the legislative calendar. So we have all the really important dates of the legislative calendar, as well as our town halls that are coming up and important numbers. But the reason I've started putting out the legislative calendar is it's so important to know what is happening and when. For example, our bill filing deadline is this week. And so we have to get all of our bills for the session in. And that's our last time we can put it in for the entire year. And so we're putting those bills in based off of the community survey. So thank you for everybody who turned that in. Our deadline for the survey was on December 31st. And so the top 6 issues that we had for Mililani was number 1, I'm sure you can guess, cost of living. Number 2 was housing. 3 was crime. 4, we had homelessness. 5, government transparency, and 6 was traffic. And so we had a few that were coming in with mental health and drug addiction came in a close 7th, but we'll have all those results up on repmatsumoto.com. But our entire bill package is based off of those top issues. So again, in the community, you'll see there's been a lot of things happening since we last talked from the Mililani Quarterly Luncheon. The only thing I really wanted to highlight was the Mililani Band and Orchestra concert. Was able to MC that, as many of us do, but I was a member of the orchestra, and we realized it's been 20 years since I played my violin, but they asked me to play with them, and so I played a song for I should have brought a video. It was great because I got to show my children that, look, mommy has to really practice to be able to perform. And so that was what I would do every evening, but that was something wonderful that happened. But you can look at the rest of the events that we have done. And then also wanted to update, I apologize, there's a typo, but we do have our Mililani Capital Improvement Project money released from the governor. So $6 million for the Mililani High School covered play court. This one is supposed to be the $1 million for the Mililani Ike play court. So those were just released from the governor. So wanted to let everybody know about that. And last but not least, of course, we have our resources on the back and different activities. One that's really fun is the Honolulu Theater for Youth is giving a free 30-minute performance on January 29th from 3 to 3:30 in Mililani it's kind of a take on the Gingerbread Man, but it's the Musubi Man. So you can go and take your children to that. But and tomorrow I'm a co-convener for the Women's Legislative Caucus. We have our annual legislative breakfast at the YWCA. And so we'll be releasing our package tomorrow. So with that, that is the end of my report. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Representative Matsumoto? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for your report. I really enjoyed the cards. I just Very well organized. Thank you so much for that. Quick question. A few months ago, I talked with the Director of Research concerning the insurance crisis. And from your viewpoint, I mentioned it to the governor's rep tonight. When are you all going to be meeting again?
So unfortunately, I'm not a seat, I don't have a seat on the task force, but we get updates from the governor's task force. But I will let you know from those conversations and the research and the conversations that you had with our director of research, we are putting a bill in regards to the condo insurance crisis, and we're modeling it after Alabama, what they did with their tax credits in order to invite more people into the market because Hawaii is such a small market. So you can, on our next meeting, I will have my entire bill package with the numbers presented to you. That we don't have the numbers yet for our bills. We're still filing until Thursday.
Who's doing the bill?
I am.
Great, great. I'll do the input then to the, through you or through the research director.
You can do it through me. We can coordinate for that.
Thank you. Can
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone online?
I forgot something.
Oh, is DOT rep gonna?
Perfect. No,
Or next month, we're gonna get it?
next month, but I did talk with, thank you, that's what I forgot. Talked with Director Sniffen today about the emergency access road. And so like we mentioned last time, that it is going to be a bigger project than the original gate with the gravel road. They're working with DTS to incorporate it with the buses, since that is the park and ride. And so they're going to give us a full update. Maybe the DOT rep will have the update for us tonight, but Director Sniffen said it is going ahead when I talked with him today, and they'll hopefully give us a fuller update for next month.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, House District 46, Representative Peruso, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Hey. So thank you, Lauren, for taking care of so much of the business. And Matt too, that was very thorough. But I did want to just retouch some of the issues. So first, with respect to the landfill, we had a meeting in Wahiawa, more than 250 people, another one in Whitmore Village, another 50 people. We're introducing legislation that will make it illegal to site a landfill over an aquifer. So in the interest of protecting our water sources, Rep. Quinlan and I and some other leaders of the Environmental Caucus, so I'm a co-convener of the Environmental Caucus, we're having a press conference January 28th at 11 a.m. and I invite all the community members to come join us. There'll be sign waving, and we really want to send a strong message that our water is precious and irreplaceable. So that's happening. So HB 969 is the bill that we're asking folks to support that will do that work. Although there are a couple of other measures that are also being introduced. And then secondly, I would say, touching on what Lauren said with respect to the speed at which the session moves, we have found it somewhat clunky to rely on a monthly newsletter. So we're asking folks to please go to my representative website. So that's Representative Amy Peruso, 2 R's, 1 S, and to subscribe. And we're going to be sending out weekly newsletters, but with action items. So we have found that these newsletters often hit mailboxes or inboxes, if they're only being done monthly, when the information within the newsletter is outdated and no longer relevant or useful. So we're trying to make it so that we are providing the community with information prior to the time to act, so that community can be more engaged. And the third thing I'll say is that as the Keiki Caucus lead on our internships, I wanted to say that I am really excited and grateful to have Annie Kuehu serving as our office's, one of our office's interns this session. And I think that she's attending in person this evening. Annie, if you are, can you please stand up? Excellent. And I'm hopeful that Annie, who is quite amazing, will at some point be reporting to the board, and I will be there to answer questions as well and to support, but really looking forward to her further engagement in the community and learning more about the legislative process. And you know, I'll be sharing out all the information about the bills that we're filing and the issues we're really drilling down on. You know, if you have questions about that, I can go into it, but I see that the time is getting late.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions for Representative Peruso's office? No, go ahead.
Not really a question. So yes, that is my daughter. We have the same last name. That is my daughter. She's a student at Hanalani schools here in Mililani. She's a junior. So I am very proud that she took that step on her own and had to write her essay and everything else and go through the process, and was there on opening day. And although she's been at the legislature and gone through hearings and testimony and being here, of course, growing up in the community meetings, it's nice to see her branching out and trying something on her own. So yes, mom does have an expectation that she will be doing meeting reports for Representative Peruso's office. Thanks, Amy.
All right, any other questions? Anyone online? All right, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
All right. House District 37, Representative La Chica. Hi, Trish.
Very last. Happy New Year, board members. Trish Luchica, representative for District 37. We're passing along our newsletter, which we rush printed. I assure you that my very orange face in the front cover is not an actual representation of my skin tone, but I also sent a copy to Zoidel. He'll be uploading that to your drive as well. It's also on the website for those online on trishlachica.com. So opening day was last week. I was very excited to see member Hudson there, as well as Rita. Thank you guys for visiting our office, as well as several members from the district. So happy to see, just welcome folks and celebrate. Also very excited to share that this 2025 legislative session, I get to be part of House leadership as the Assistant Majority Floor Leader. So for that, I get to support caucus activities. I get to count votes on the floor, assisting the Majority Floor Leader. And then when bill deadlines come up, help with some bill review. I'm also continuing as the Vice Chair of Education. So almost half of my bill package has to do with improving public education. And then in my survey is as we've been talking a lot about how affordability affects us all in cost of living, I encourage you to answer this survey. There's a QR code and an online link. It's faster to also answer it there. So we usually get like a few hundred responses on our surveys, because that helps to inform how we can better advocate for better solutions at the Capitol. Some updates. So December, we had in response to the condo and home insurance crisis, we did invite Insurance Commissioner Gordon Itero, an expert from the industry, Alex McLaury, and then from DCCA Real Estate Branch Condo Specialist to share their insights. So a lot of, we had about 80 residents just share a lot of their challenges with frustrations and just overall understand how difficult it is to regulate, how most of, the market is like, they're not, we're unable to regulate them, right? Because they basically are a non-permitted carrier. So the different ways that we're just looking to address it. I do have a bill that looks at those on limited and 80% area median income, some type of loan for them to be able to up to $5,000 to cover. It's like a pilot program that sunsets if they, just to be able to look at some insurance affordability to help pay for those costs. And then as follow-up, I will also in my next newsletter next month include also all the bill numbers, but 2 bills. I am introducing that bill to expand the various state laws on the classification of e-bikes. So that's House Bill 435. It amends various state laws on the classification of e-bikes according to speed. It requires registration. It also requires disclosures at point of sale. So it will have in big letters, the sale and operation of this e-bicycle is subject to, Hawaii revised statute, and prohibits the operation of this e-bike to anyone under the age of 16. And so we have those laws. We also have the another bill that I'm putting out is this in response to actually constituent requests on the fires because of lithium ion batteries from the e-bikes. And so we're expanding the electronic device recycling program requiring lithium ion battery producers to play a more active role in the recovery and recycling of their products to help ensure that, the batteries stay out of our landfills and avoid fire. So that's House Bill 332. So that's House Bill 332. So again, we'll share all of those bill numbers, but very excited to work on these different bills. And then finally, just to let you know, we're still working on the, we are very aware that the homeless encampment in Kiwapa Gulch has been reactivated. So over the holidays, this for Kealoha West Oahu has been providing active outreach since the after the holidays. And this Friday, we have, I'm hosting a site visit with the Garrison Commander, Colonel Rachel Sullivan will be there, as well as the Hawaii Department of Transportation outreach provider, my office to just address the situation and look at other solutions, comprehensive solutions. And what else did we work on? Oh, there's like the illegal, like you drive by Cam Highway, there's usually like one house that has those banners and flags on the left. So if those are down, it's because we worked, we received, constituent requests. So we addressed that with state highways. So if you see them back up again, that's not allowed in because the election season is over. So let our office know if those, signs, election signs are back up again. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Representative Chica? Anyone?
Yes.
Anyone online? So Trish, one thing, remember the Mililani Middle School parking lot?
Yes.
So I was just informed by City Parks and Rec that the DOE now has the MOU for review. So can you follow up with them and find out what they're doing with it?
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. You can report back.
Okay.
Or let me know if they want to attend next month and I'll put them on the agenda.
Sounds good. Yeah. We also have a new complex area superintendent that will be has started already.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, State DOT, Casey Abe, are you online?
Yes, I am, Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening and Happy New Year, Chair Hazama and members of the Mililani, Mauka, Launani Valley Neighborhood Board, KCR from the State DOT Highway Division. According to Representative Matsumoto, I don't have an update for the emergency exit. Apparently, we're still working out on details with the city and county. So hopefully by next month, I can provide more details on the changes that they're talking about. But as on December 20th, I received an email from Aaron Wilson from Councilmember Bell Okimoto's office from one of their constituents requesting for a flashing beacon at the crosswalk near the Mililani Mauka off-ramp. I am working with our traffic branch to see if the flashing beacon is justified and report back at a future meeting. During my field investigating last week, I was happy to see our landscaping contractor cutting the overgrowth along the Mauka side of the H2 freeway as you approach the Mililani Mauka off-ramp. I hope they will complete the cutting of the overgrowth on the Makai side by the end of next month. I do want to thank the board members and the residents for their patience. And finally, I noticed graffiti on the destination sign along the H2 freeway heading towards Waipio. I'm working with our maintenance crew to remove the graffiti. And this concludes my report. I can take any questions at this time.
Yeah, Casey, I have a question.
Sure.
This is the second mention of that flashing signal at that crosswalk. I'm trying to picture, is it the crosswalk going H2 northbound, or is it the crosswalk for the southbound traffic on the on-ramp to H2?
It's the off-ramp going north as you Not as you take.
Oh, the one closer to the commercial center then, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Well,
That's
that's
state
what
property
closer,
though,
that's
right?
going on ramp to the
That's DOT jurisdiction, right?
Yes, both the off ramp and the on ramp. So the
Okay.
off ramp is the one coming from
So the city is asking for the state to basically give them permission to put the flashing light out.
From my understanding, the city is asking us, the constituent is talking to council member Okimoto to ask us to install it because it's on the state highways.
Okay.
Asking us.
That's what I thought. So that area belongs to DOT. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for DOT? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Abe?
Yes.
Stephen Melendez here. I want to thank you for addressing the safety issue with the e-cars concerning their weight and that the current barriers on the freeway can't support the additional weight, pardon me, for the vehicles. In your studies also, are you addressing the issue concerning the lithium-ion batteries and thermal runaway?
Oh yes, our research also adjusts how it affects because these electric vehicles have to go conduct a crash testing in order for them to meet standards, national standards. So the automotive companies that build these electric vehicles have to pass national safety standards crash testing.
Right, but also with is your department addressing the issue on thermal runaway with the lithium-ion batteries?
It's not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for DOT? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Casey. Okay, moving on to approval of board minutes for our November 19th, 2024 regular board meeting. Any comments or corrections? Okay, hearing none. Any objections to adopting the minutes? No objections, any abstention? Okay, the minutes have been adopted. Moving on to reports. Patsy, Team Inc. Central Oahu Regional Park.
No report.
No report. Education. Anna, you have a report?
Anna, go ahead.
Yes. I'm doing a report for school liaison for Mililani Ike. They are recognizing their military partners from the 84th Engineer Battalion, and the students from their school created holiday cards to thank the volunteer group. And so far, the battalion has supported the school fun run and the college IHS collection and the career week. Both the schools that are going to Mililani Ike and Mililani Mauka will be participating in the Character Counts Fair, which celebrates the 6 pillars of character on February 22nd at Mililani Middle School. And the community is welcome to enjoy various activities there. Mililani Mauka Elementary School Principal Shimabukuro is announcing the covered outdoor play court is now open for use by their school for their weekly PE classes. And this space will also provide use for special events like the upcoming performance by the Hawaii Opera Theater. And let's see. I found out that Wheeler Middle School is welcoming a new principal, Kristen L. Walji, and former principal B. Vera Chun retired in December. And just have some information about continuing supporting the Wheeler Middle School fundraiser at Papa John's in Wahiawa every third Thursday. And in Liliehua High School, they're having a Mule's birthday bash on January 25th. And this will feature all high school students can come. If the students want to sponsor student, they can stop by and purchase a ticket for them. And that concludes my report for the 4 schools that we oversee.
Okay, thank you. Stephen?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead and share. I'm going to share screen. Give me just a moment.
Stephen, we have it in front of us. Why don't you just, we have the handout.
There you go. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to be recording on Mililani Middle School, the Education Committee report. At the top, you see the administration, flanked on the left by Principal Sherrill, and across from left to right is the vice principals. I want to share with you a couple stats updates. That currently there are 1,580 students there. We do have a teacher to student ratio of 16 to 1. Currently, they're ranked at the 87th high percentile in Hawaii test scores and in reading in 71% plus. Very proud of the school. On page 1, I'm sorry, go back up. Page 1 right there, talking about the HIP programs, high interest programs, open enrollment, and also the Mililani Middle School is participating in Character Counts. Character Counts is actually one of the high interest programs offered. These high interest programs are 100% funded by the school. They're great way to enhance the student's background education. It has 32 programs, including all the sports, robotics, reading, dance, astronomy, computers, etc. Great opportunity for the students. Like I mentioned, they're all free. These are the open enrollment items, and the open enrollment schedule can also be, the students can also receive it at the administration building or in the homerooms. Page 2 is concerning reading matters. This is a good item to going to come up just a little bit more. Okay, stop. This is an item that they're promoting. It's really good. That if a student reads 20 minutes per day, it's estimated that they'll gain an additional 1,800,000 words per year. If a student reads 5 minutes per day, estimated at 282,000 words per year. 1 minute a day is 8,000 new words a year. If you bring that down on standardized test scores, at 20 minutes a day, they're going to be, it's estimated the 90% percentile. At 5 minutes a day, the 50% percentile. 1 minute a day is a 10% percentile. And this is not necessarily, this is reading books, because when you take and you read a book, you actually see the strategy and the unfolding of the thoughts of the author. E-reading is fine, but it's more enriching in receiving, in actual turning the pages of the book, because you can see the content and the context, and it's easier to recognize that and the strategy that the person used to write the book. At the very bottom of the page 2, continuing concerning the administration building, the front has the main conference room open for committee meetings. The SCC School Community Council meets second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. and the PTSO at 5 p.m. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to military and civil defense. No report. Parks and Recreation.
No report.
Planning, permitting, and zoning.
No report.
Okay, thanks, Stanton. Transportation, I don't have any report. Recognition and service reports, Alice? No report. All right, any other announcements, board members? All right, so I have one. So just a reminder to the board members as well as the public, the neighborhood board candidate filing deadline is February 21st for the 2025 to 2027 term. So please file your applications before then. Sure, the pay is going to be increased for the session, but yes. Seeing no other announcements, our next board meeting will be held Tuesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. at this location as well as via WebEx. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.